The Instagram post stopped my scrolling dead in its tracks. There was my sister, radiant in a white dress, surrounded by our entire family at what was clearly her engagement party. Everyone was there: Mom, Dad, Blair, cousins, even my aunt from Minnesota. Everyone except me. I'm Patricia, and I just found out my sister is getting married through social media. Like a stranger. Like someone who hadn't shared a bedroom with her for 15 years. My phone buzzed. A message from Eugene, my colleague at the tech startup where I work. You okay? You've been staring at your screen for 10 minutes straight. I looked up to find him watching me from across our open plan office, concern etched on his face. I forced a smile and typed back, family stuff, the usual. Coffee break, he suggested. At the nearby cafe, I showed him the post. Eugene whistled low. That's cold, even for Jocelyn. You know what's colder? I scrolled through the comments. Mom liked it. Dad commented, so proud of my beautiful daughter. Blair shared it with heart emojis. When was the last time you spoke to them? Last month. Family dinner. I stirred my untouched latte, watching the foam swirl. Dad spent the whole time talking about how Jocelyn just made partner at her law firm. Mom kept asking when I'd quit playing with computers and get a real job. Playing with computers? Eugene raised an eyebrow. You're literally leading the AI development team at one of Silicon Valley's hottest startups. Try explaining machine learning to someone who thinks success means either becoming a lawyer or a doctor. I laughed, but it came out bitter. When I told them about our Series B funding, Dad just asked if Jocelyn could look over the contracts for me. My phone buzzed again. Blair. Did you see? She texted. Hard to miss, I replied. I wanted to tell you, but Joss said she'd handle it. Clearly, she handled it perfectly. Patty, don't be like that. I put the phone face down. Eugene reached across the table and squeezed my hand. What are you going to do? Before I could answer, another notification popped up, this time from Mom in our family group chat. Dinner this Sunday. Important wedding details to discuss. Everyone must attend. Everyone? I typed back. Mom read it but didn't respond. Classic. I'll tell you what I'm going to do, I said to Eugene, standing up. I'm going to that dinner, and then I'm going to that wedding. But you weren't invited. No, I smiled, an idea forming. But I have something better than an invitation. I have a plan. Sunday arrived with the usual mix of Bay Area fog and family tension. I pulled up to my parents' house in my Tesla, another success they'd dismissed as frivolous, and took a deep breath. Inside, Jocelyn was holding court at the dining table, her new engagement ring catching the light as she gestured. Marquis and I were thinking about a destination wedding in Bali. She faltered when she saw me. Mom nearly dropped the serving bowl she was carrying. Patricia, Dad said, his tone careful. We didn't expect you. Mom said everyone must attend. I took my old seat at the table. I'm still everyone, right? Blair shot me a warning look. Jocelyn cleared her throat. Actually, Patty, about the wedding... Congratulations, by the way, I cut in. The Instagram post was beautiful. Really captured the family spirit. The silence that followed was deafening. Patricia, Mom started, but Dad interrupted. Now isn't the time for drama. Your sister's wedding is important. And I'm not? The words escaped before I could stop them. Jocelyn sighed dramatically. This is exactly why why I wanted to keep things simple. Simple? I laughed. Is that what we're calling it now? Girls, Mom pleaded. No, let's hear it, I pressed. Why exactly wasn't I at the engagement party, Jocelyn? Because you always make everything about you, Jocelyn exploded. Your fancy job, your startup, your coding. Some of us work real jobs, Patricia. Some of us actually contribute to society instead of playing around with computers. The room fell silent. Blair stared at her plate. Dad looked almost approving. I stood up slowly, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. You know what? You're right. I do make things about me sometimes. And your wedding? I smiled, reaching for my bag. I'm going to make that about me too. What's that supposed to mean? Jocelyn demanded. It means congratulations again, big sister. I'll be bringing you a very special wedding gift, something to help you see things from my perspective. I walked out, ignoring their calls, my mind already racing with possibilities. Eugene had been telling me about our company's new VR development kit, with the right programming, the right scenes. I started my car, the engine purring to life. Oh yes, Jocelyn would get her perfect wedding, and I would make sure she never forgot it. You want to do what? Eugene leaned back in his chair, eyes wide as I explained my plan in our office break room. Create a VR experience that shows Jocelyn exactly what she's been missing, I said, pulling up the prototype specs on my tablet. Every moment she dismissed, every achievement she ignored, I want her to live it. And you think our new dev kit can handle that? I smiled. With the right programmer. You mean the best programmer in Silicon Valley? Eugene grinned, then grew serious. But Pat, are you sure about this? Revenge isn't usually your style. Before I could answer, my phone lit up with Blair's face. Hey, stranger, I answered, putting it on speaker. Joss is losing it, Blair said without preamble. She's convinced you're going to crash her wedding with a SWAT team or something. Please, I scoffed. I'm not that dramatic. Says the girl who coded our parents' smart home to play cats in the cradle every time Dad walked in. Eugene snorted coffee through his nose. That was different, I protested. I was 18 and angry about him missing my graduation for Jocelyn's law school orientation. Speaking of graduation, Blair's voice softened. I found that video the other day, the one where you gave the valedictorian speech. My throat tightened. Dad said he lost that footage. He didn't lose it. He never filmed it. But I did, on my old phone. I was so proud of you, Patty. Eugene caught my eye and mouthed, perfect for the VR. Blair, I said carefully, would you be willing to share that video? Why? Let's just say I'm working on a special wedding present. A pause. Will it hurt her? No, I realized I meant it. It might actually help her understand. After hanging up, I dove into coding. Days blurred together as I built the virtual world. Eugene helped me test each scene, offering suggestions and technical support. This is incredible, he said, removing the headset after trying the latest version. The way you've mapped the emotional resonance to the neural feedback, it's like being inside someone else's memories. That's the point, I said, tweaking the code. I want her to feel what I felt. A knock on our office door made us both jump. My boss, Sandra, stood there looking impressed. I heard rumors about an advanced empathy engine being developed after hours, she said. Didn't expect to find my AI team lead behind it. I can explain, I started. No need. She waved me off. The potential applications for therapy, education, this could be huge. How would you feel about presenting it at next week's board meeting? I stared at her. You're not mad? Mad? Patricia, this is exactly why I hired you. You see possibilities others miss. She paused. Unlike some people, I suppose. I looked at her sharply. She smiled knowingly. Your sister's wedding invitation has been sitting on your desk for 3 days, unopened. I glanced at the cream envelope I'd been avoiding. How did you... I recognized the return address. Marcus Bryant is one of our investors. The room went silent. Eugene whistled low. Your sister's fiancé is an investor in our company? He asked. Apparently. I picked up the envelope. Inside was an elegant invitation and a handwritten note from Marquis. Patricia, I know things are complicated with the family, but I've seen your work here. It's revolutionary. I'd be honored if you'd come to the wedding. M. Well, Sandra said, looks like you have a perfect testing ground for your project. That evening, I sat in my apartment, surrounded by old photos and videos Blair had sent. There was 12-year-old me, winning the state science fair while Jocelyn rolled her eyes in the background. 16-year-old me, teaching myself to code while Dad lectured about wasting time on games. 22-year-old me, launching my first startup while the family celebrated Jocelyn passing the bar. My phone buzzed. A text from Marquis. Got a minute to talk? We met at a nearby coffee shop. He looked exactly like his LinkedIn photo. Tall, well-dressed, kind eyes. I've been following your work for years, he said after we sat down. Your algorithms are changing the industry. Does Jocelyn know you're here? He shook his head. She doesn't know I invested in your company either. She's complicated when it comes to you. That's one word for it. Look, he leaned forward. I know about the VR project. I froze. Sandra keeps me updated on potential breakthroughs, he explained. Whatever you're planning for the wedding, just remember that Jocelyn isn't as confident as she seems. Sometimes people push others away because they're afraid of being overshadowed. I thought about the invitation, still sitting on my desk, about the years of competition and comparison, about the little sister who filmed my graduation speech when no one else cared. The rehearsal dinner is next week, Marcus said, standing. Maybe you could test your project there, in private? I watched him leave, my mind racing with new possibilities. The VR experience wasn't finished yet, but maybe that was okay. Maybe, like the code itself, this story could still be rewritten. Okay, play it again, I told Eugene, adjusting the neural sensors on the VR headset. Something still doesn't feel right about the graduation scene. He pressed play, and I was instantly transported back to that day. The sun beating down on my graduation gown, the weight of expectations heavy on my shoulders. In the virtual recreation, I could see myself at the podium, 18 and terrified, but determined. I did it, Dad, my younger self was saying. First in my class, just like you wanted. The empty chairs where my parents should have been stood out starkly against the crowded auditorium. I pulled off the headset, blinking back tears. It's too bitter. Isn't that the point? Eugene asked. No, I shook my head. This isn't about making Jocelyn feel guilty. It's about helping her understand. A notification popped up on my screen, Blair requesting a video call. I accepted, and her worried face filled my monitor. Joss is freaking out, she said without preamble. She found out you're coming to the rehearsal dinner. Marquis invited me. Yeah, well, she just spent an hour ranting about how you're trying to steal her thunder. Again. Blair ran a hand through her hair. Remember when you won that coding competition in high school? The one that got me my first internship? I started reorganizing the virtual scenes. Hard to forget. Dad said it was cute that I was playing with computers while Jocelyn was preparing for law school. No, I mean, remember what Jocelyn said when they announced your name? I paused. She said she could have won if she'd entered, that it wasn't real programming anyway. Right. But later that night I found her crying in our room. She'd tried to teach herself coding but couldn't understand it. Said she felt stupid, because everything seemed to come so easily to you. I sat back, stunned. What? That's why I sent you this. Blair held up a USB drive. It's not just your moments, it's hers too, the ones you missed while you were busy proving yourself. The package arrived the next morning. I spent hours incorporating Blair's footage into the VR experience. Jocelyn struggling over textbooks late at night. Jocelyn practicing her court arguments in front of the mirror, voice shaking. Jocelyn watching my TED Talk on AI ethics when she thought no one was looking. This changes everything, I told Eugene as he reviewed the new version. It makes it better, he agreed. More honest. My phone buzzed. A text from Marquis. Rehearsal dinner tomorrow. Still coming? I looked at the nearly completed VR program. Yes, I typed back, with bells on. That night, I couldn't sleep. I found myself driving to our old neighborhood, parking outside the house where we grew up. The porch light was still on, Mom's habit, always leaving a light for her girls. A tap on my window made me jump. Dad stood there, looking awkward in his pajamas and robe. Your mother saw your car, he said as I rolled down the window. Come inside, please. The kitchen looked exactly the same. Mom was making tea, her hands shaking slightly as she set out 3 cups. We got your RSVP, she said quietly, for the rehearsal dinner. Marquis invited me. He's a good man, Dad said, stirring his tea. Sees value in things others miss. The implied criticism hung in the air. Patricia, Mom started, then stopped. Patty, the night of your graduation? It's fine, I cut her off. It was a long time ago. No, let me finish. She reached for something on top of the fridge, an old VHS tape. We were there. What? In the back, Dad said, not meeting my eyes. We came late, missed your speech, but we saw you get your diploma. Why didn't you tell me? Because we left early, Mom whispered. To get to Jocelyn's orientation. We thought you wouldn't notice. But I did, I said softly. I noticed everything. Dad cleared his throat. Your sister? She notices too, more than you think. I thought about Blair's footage, about Jocelyn watching my TED Talk in secret, about all the things we never said to each other. I'm working on something, I told them. For the wedding, a way to show everyone what we've been missing. Will it hurt her? Mom asked, echoing Blair's question. I shook my head. I hope it will heal us. Driving home, I made one final adjustment to the VR program. Added one last scene. 2 sisters, young and unburdened, playing together in the backyard. Before expectations, before competition, before we learned to measure love and achievements. Tomorrow was the rehearsal dinner. Tomorrow, Jocelyn would see everything. Not just my pain, but hers too. Our shared story told through both our eyes. I touched the VR headset on my passenger seat. Ready or not, sis, I whispered. Time to see the whole truth. The rehearsal dinner venue was exactly what I'd expect from Jocelyn. Elegant, expensive, and designed to impress. I clutched my purse containing the VR headset and took a deep breath before walking in. Patricia! Marquis spotted me first, striding over with a genuine smile. You made it. Heads turned. Whispers started. I caught fragments of conversation. That's the sister. Wasn't invited originally. Some kind of tech genius. Thanks for having me, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Are you kidding? The woman who developed the empathy engine my firm just invested in? You're the guest of honor. He said it loudly enough for nearby guests to hear. More whispers. Different ones now. $1 million investment. Revolutionary AI. That Patricia? Blair appeared at my elbow, looking nervous. Joss is in the bathroom having a meltdown. She knows you're here. Good, I said, patting my purse, because I have something for her. Patricia, my father's voice. He stood nearby, looking uncomfortable in his tuxedo. A word? We stepped aside, near a large floral arrangement that probably cost more than my first car. Whatever you're planning, he said quietly, remember this is your sister's day. Like she remembered my graduation? The words slipped out before I could stop them. Dad flinched. We were there. In the back, for 5 minutes. I forced a smile. But that's not why I'm here. Then why? Patricia. Jocelyn's voice cut through the air like a knife. She stood there in a stunning white dress, her makeup perfect despite her obvious agitation. What are you doing here? The room went quiet. Even the servers seemed to pause. Marquis invited me, I said calmly, and I brought you something. I don't want anything from you. But her voice wavered. Joe's, Marquis stepped forward. Give her a chance. A chance? Jocelyn laughed, high and brittle. Like she gave me a chance when she stole the spotlight at my law school graduation with her startup news? That was different, Blair interjected. She didn't know. Or when she had to one-up my partner announcement with her TED Talk. I didn't plan that, I said quietly. But you didn't know that, did you? Just like I didn't know about the nights you spent trying to learn coding. Jocelyn went pale. How did you... Blair showed me the videos. All of them. Including the ones of you watching my presentations. Mom appeared beside us, wringing her hands. Girls, please. No, I pulled out the VR headset. This needs to happen. Joss, remember when we were kids? Before everything became a competition? Before you became the genius, you mean? But there was something different in her voice now. Hurt, not anger. Before we stopped seeing each other, I corrected. Really seeing each other. Marquis stepped forward, examining the headset. Is this... my latest project, the one your firm invested in? I held it out to Jocelyn. It's not what you think. It's not revenge. Then what is it? Understanding. The room held its breath. Jocelyn stared at the headset, then at me. 5 minutes, I said. That's all I'm asking. She reached for it, hesitated. Will it mess up my makeup? I almost laughed. Same old Jaws, always concerned about appearances. No, I promised. But it might mess up some other things. She took the headset. Marquis guided her to a chair while I pulled out my laptop to start the program. Wait, Blair said suddenly. She turned to the gathered crowd. Private moment, everyone. Please. The guests obediently moved away, though I could feel their curious glances. Ready? I asked Jocelyn. She nodded, jaw set. I started the program, watched her face as the first scene began, us as children, playing in the backyard. Her hands twitched, reaching for memories. Then came the split screens, my achievements alongside her private struggles, her successes next to my hidden pain. Every moment we'd missed, every assumption we'd made, laid bare in virtual reality. Oh, she whispered. Just that one small sound, but it carried worlds of understanding. Dad moved closer, watching intently. Mom wiped tears from her eyes. The final scene played, my graduation speech alongside her law school ceremony, both of us achieving our dreams, both of us missing the other's moment. Jocelyn pulled off the headset. Her perfect makeup was intact, but her eyes were different, softer. How did you... she started. I'm good with computers, I said. Remember? She laughed, a real laugh this time. Then, to everyone's surprise, she stood and hugged me. I'm sorry, she whispered. Me too. Marquis cleared his throat. Should we call everyone back in? Not yet, Jocelyn said, still holding me. I think my sister and I need to talk first. As we walked toward a private room, I caught Blair's eye. She was grinning, giving me a thumbs up. Maybe sometimes revenge isn't about getting even. Maybe sometimes it's about getting back to where you started before everything went wrong. The private room was small, with just 2 chairs and a window overlooking the city lights. Jocelyn sat down, still holding the VR headset like it might break. How long did this take you? She asked. 3 weeks. Blair helped. Of course she did. Jocelyn smiled slightly. She always was the peacemaker. Remember when she used to leave notes in our rooms? Joss is sorry but too proud to say it. Patty wants to talk but doesn't know how. God, we were terrible to her sometimes. A knock at the door interrupted us. Blair poked her head in. Mom's having a panic attack about the seating arrangements. Should I... Let her panic, Jocelyn said. This is more important. Blair's eyes widened. She slipped inside, closing the door behind her. I want to try it again, Jocelyn said suddenly, lifting the headset. But this time, explain it to me, how it works, what you did. I blinked in surprise. You want to know about the technical side? I want to know about my sister's work, for once. As I explained the neural mapping and emotional resonance algorithms, Jocelyn actually listened, asked questions, engaged. That's actually incredible, she said when I finished. No wonder Marquis invested. Speaking of Marquis, Blair interjected, he's been running interference with the guests. Dad's helping. Dad? I asked incredulously. He watched the whole VR experience over your shoulder, Blair said. I've never seen him look so... ashamed. Jocelyn twisted her engagement ring. You know why I didn't invite you initially? Because I always steal the spotlight? I tried to keep the bitterness out of my voice. Because I was afraid you'd show up with some amazing achievement or announcement, like when you got that genius grant right before my law school graduation. Jose, that timing was coincidental. I didn't even attend the ceremony because I thought you wouldn't want me there. I did want you there. Her voice cracked. I always wanted you there. I couldn't compete with you anymore. Compete? I laughed. Jaz, you're a partner at the biggest law firm in Silicon Valley. At 30. And you're revolutionizing artificial intelligence at 28. She shook her head. Do you know how many times Dad has shown his colleagues your TED Talk? What? Dad doesn't even understand what I do. He bought a VR headset just to try to understand, Blair said quietly. after your last startup got funded. Another knock. This time it was Marquise. Sorry to interrupt, but the caterers need decisions about tomorrow's menu. Give us a minute, Jocelyn said, then turned back to me. Will you help me with the VR setup tomorrow, for the wedding? You still want to show it? I want everyone to see it, both sides of the story. She stood up. And I want you to be my bridesmaid, Blair gasped. It's last minute, I know, Jocelyn continued. And you probably don't have a dress. I have one, I admitted. I bought it the day you announced your engagement. Before I messed everything up? Jocelyn offered a watery smile. Before we both did. We hugged again, longer this time. Blair joined in, making it a group hug like when we were kids. Girls? Mom's voice from the doorway. She stood there with Dad, both looking uncertain. The guests can wait, Jocelyn said firmly. Family meeting first. Dad stepped forward, clearing his throat. Patricia, that program of yours, the way it showed both perspectives. Yes? I held my breath. It made me realize how much I've missed, how much we've all missed. He pulled something from his pocket, an old, folded paper. My graduation speech. You kept it? I whispered. Blair's not the only one who saves things. He unfolded it carefully. I've read it so many times, trying to understand when things went wrong, when my daughters stopped being sisters and became competitors. Fred, Mom touched his arm. No, let me finish. He looked at each of us. Tomorrow, before the wedding, I want to try that VR thing. I want to see everything I've missed, everything I've caused. Jocelyn wiped her eyes carefully. Daddy. And then, he continued, maybe we can all start fresh, as a family. The door opened wider. Marquise stood there with the caterer, looking apologetic. It's okay, I said, standing up. We have time now. All the time we need. Starting with dress alterations, Blair grinned, because there's no way that bridesmaid dress fits perfectly. Actually, I smiled, I might have had it tailored already, just in case. Jocelyn laughed through her tears. Of course you did. Always prepared, aren't you? Not always, I said, thinking of the VR program, of all the revelations it had brought. Sometimes the best things aren't planned at all. We walked out together, 3 sisters side by side, parents following behind. The guests stared, whispered, but for once, none of us cared about appearances. Tomorrow would bring its own challenges, but tonight, we were just family. Finally, truly family. The morning of the wedding dawned bright and clear. I was adjusting the VR setup in the bridal suite when Dad knocked on the door. Is it ready? He asked, looking more nervous than I'd ever seen him. Almost. I checked the connections one last time. Are you sure you want to do this now? The ceremony's in 2 hours. I need to see it. All of it. He sat down heavily in the makeup chair. Your mother, too. Mom appeared behind him, wringing her hands. We both do. I helped them put on the headsets, started the program, then stepped back. Blair slipped in quietly to watch. Their reactions were immediate. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. Dad's shoulders tensed. I'd added new scenes just for them, moments they'd missed or misunderstood over the years. 20 minutes later, they removed the headsets. Mom was crying openly. Dad just sat there staring at his hands. I didn't know, he finally said. All those times I pushed Jocelyn, bragged about her achievements. While dismissing mine, I couldn't help adding. While hurting you both, he corrected. The competition, the comparing. I thought I was motivating you. Instead, I was tearing you apart. A commotion outside interrupted us. Jocelyn burst in, still in her robe, makeup half done. I can't do this, she announced. The wedding? Blair asked, alarmed. No, not the wedding. This. She gestured at her perfectly planned morning. The fake perfection, the pretense. She turned to me. I want to show the VR experience before the ceremony, not after. But the schedule, Mom started. Needs to change, Jocelyn cut her off. I want everyone to understand before they watch me say my vows. I want them to see the real us. I checked my watch. We have 90 minutes before the ceremony. If we set up in the main hall now— Do it, Dad said firmly. I'll handle the coordinators. The next hour was organized chaos. Guests arrived to find VR stations set up around the hall, each programmed with our story. Marquis helped explain the technology to confused relatives. Blair managed the viewing schedule, making sure everyone had a chance to experience it. I stood back, watching faces as people removed their headsets. Aunts wiping tears, uncles looking thoughtful, cousins who'd grown up witnessing our rivalry finally understanding its cost. Your sister's looking for you. Eugene appeared at my elbow. I'd invited him as my +1, knowing I'd need the support. She's in the garden. I found Jocelyn sitting on a bench, fully dressed now in her wedding gown, staring at nothing. Cold feet? I asked. Hot tears, she replied, pointing to her carefully made-up face. Thank God for waterproof mascara. I sat beside her. Having regrets about showing everyone? No, yes, I don't know. She turned to me. Do you remember when I won my first mock trial competition? Junior year of high school, Dad threw you a party. You brought me coffee that morning, when I was so nervous I couldn't eat. You said— She swallowed hard. You said I was going to be amazing. You were. But I never did that for you. Never supported you like that. She grabbed my hand. I was so busy being jealous of your brilliance that I forgot to be proud of it. Joss, let me finish. I've been watching people experience our story all morning, seeing their reactions, and I realized something. She stood up, smoothing her dress. I don't want to walk down that aisle until I make this right. You already have. No, she shook her head. I need to change my vows. What? The ones I wrote are all about perfect love and fairy tales. But after everything, after seeing us through your eyes, she squared her shoulders. I need to talk about real love, messy love, the kind that survives rivalry and misunderstanding and comes out stronger. A bell chimed. 30 minutes to ceremony. Will you help me? She asked. You were always better with words. Better? I laughed. You're literally a lawyer. And you're my sister. She hugged me carefully, avoiding makeup smudges. My brilliant, forgiving, amazing sister. Blair found us there, crying and laughing together. Guys, she said. Dad's about to have an aneurysm about the timeline, and Mom's stress-eating the cocktail hour appetizers. Tell them we're coming, Jocelyn said. Just need 5 minutes to fix these vows. And my mascara, I added, wiping my eyes. Blair smiled. I'll tell them the bride and her sister are having an important pre-wedding moment. As she left, Jocelyn pulled out her vows, hands shaking slightly. Ready to rewrite our story one more time? She asked. I took the paper from her, thinking of algorithms and emotions, of competition and reconciliation, of all the ways love can be reprogrammed. Together this time, I said. And there in the garden, with the sound of arriving guests in the background, two sisters who had spent years competing finally collaborated on something beautiful. The wedding music started, but it wasn't the traditional bridal march. Instead, soft notes of Bridge Over Troubled Water filled the air, the song Mom used to play when we fought as kids. I stood beside Blair at the altar, both of us trying not to cry as Dad walked Jocelyn down the aisle. The guests were different now, transformed by what they'd seen in the VR experience. Their faces showed understanding instead of just admiration. Marquis beamed at his bride, but his eyes flickered to me with gratitude. He knew what the morning's revelations had cost us all. The officiant began, but Jocelyn raised her hand. Before we start, she said, her voice carrying clearly through the hall, I need to say something. A murmur rippled through the crowd. This wasn't in the program. Many of you experienced our family's story this morning, she continued. You saw the competition, the misunderstandings, the pain we caused each other, but you also saw love, complicated, messy, imperfect love. Mom sniffled loudly from the front row. Dad wrapped an arm around her. Marquise? Jocelyn turned to her soon-to-be husband. I rewrote my vows an hour ago, with help from someone who taught me that the strongest bonds aren't built on perfection, but on forgiveness. She pulled out a wrinkled paper, the one we'd written together in the garden. I promise to love you not like a fairy tale, but like my sister taught me to love, with honesty, with humility, and with the understanding that real relationships survive real challenges. Marquis wasn't even trying to hide his tears now. I promise to see you, really see you, even when it's easier to look away, to celebrate your successes without diminishing my own, to remember that love isn't a competition. She glanced at me, then continued, and I promise to bring into our marriage the lessons my family learned the hard way, that understanding matters more than appearances, that vulnerability is stronger than pride, and that it's never too late to rewrite your story. The officiant cleared his throat, clearly moved. Would you like to share your vows now, Marquise? He shook his head, smiling through tears. How do I follow that? Then he reached into his pocket and pulled out his phone. Actually, I have something else in mind. He nodded to someone in the back. Suddenly, the large screens we'd used for the VR presentations came to life. On them appeared a video, Marquis, speaking directly to the camera. Jaws, Video Marquis said, I fell in love with you because of your passion, your drive, your determination to be the best. But watching you this morning, seeing you embrace your sister's truth alongside your own, I fell in love with you all over again. The real Marquis took Jocelyn's hands. So my vow is simple. I promise to love all of you, the competitor and the sister, the lawyer and the little girl who once tried to learn coding just to understand her sister's world. I promise to help you bridge those parts of yourself, just as you've bridged the gap with your family. Dad was openly crying now. Blair squeezed my hand so hard it hurt. And speaking of family, Video Marquis continued, I have an announcement. The investment my firm made in Patricia's company, it wasn't just about business. It was about believing in this family's ability to heal. So today, I'm not just gaining a wife. I'm gaining 2 sisters-in-law who've taught me more about love than any law book ever could. The screens went dark. The officiant wiped his eyes before speaking. Well, I think we can skip to the important part. Do you, Jocelyn? Yes, she interrupted, laughing through tears. And do you, Marquise? Absolutely yes. Then by the power vested in me, I pronounce you. Their kiss was interrupted by spontaneous applause. Not polite wedding applause, but real emotional celebration. Even the wedding photographer was wiping her lens clean of tears. As the newlyweds turned to face their guests, Jocelyn grabbed my hand, then Blair's, pulling us into the moment. We stood there, 3 sisters and a new brother, while camera flashes captured not just a wedding, but a reconciliation. Ladies and gentlemen, the officiant announced, I present to you not just the happy couple, but a family made whole again. Mom rushed forward to hug us all. Dad followed, his usual dignity forgotten as he gathered his daughters close. My girls, he whispered, all my brilliant, beautiful girls. As we moved toward the reception, Jocelyn held me back for a moment. That VR experience, she said quietly. It started as revenge, didn't it? I nodded, no point in lying now. Thank you, she said. For what? For turning your pain into our healing. She squeezed my hand. Now, want to help me make our entrance? I'm thinking we ditch the traditional announcement for something more. Us. I grinned, already seeing the possibilities. Together? Together, she confirmed. No more competing. From now on, we collaborate. And as we walked into the reception, arm in arm, I realized that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's getting better, together. The sun was setting as I packed up the last of the VR equipment from the reception. Most guests had left, leaving just family and a few close friends lingering over coffee and wedding cake. Need help with that? Eugene appeared beside me, jacket off, bow tie loose. Almost done. I wrapped the final cable. Hard to believe this little setup changed everything. Not the setup, he corrected. What you chose to do with it. A burst of laughter drew our attention. At a nearby table, Jocelyn was showing Marquis something on her phone, while Blair provided running commentary. Oh, God, Blair called out. Patty, get over here. We found the video of your first coding competition. I joined them, expecting to cringe at my teenage self. Instead, I noticed something in the background I'd never seen before. Jocelyn watching from the doorway, a mix of pride and uncertainty on her young face. "I remember that day," she said softly. "You were so confident. I wanted to tell you how amazing you were, but Dad had just bragged about my law school acceptance," she finished. "It felt wrong to steal your moment." "Look at us." Blair scrolled through more old photos. All those years, orbiting each other without connecting. Speaking of connecting, Marcus set down his champagne glass. "I have a proposition for you, Patricia." I raised an eyebrow. "The empathy engine you developed for the VR experience? It has potential far beyond family therapy. Schools, corporations, conflict resolution." He leaned forward. "How would you feel about heading up a new division at my firm? Focusing on emotional technology?" "What?" Jocelyn sat up straight. "With your sister as legal counsel, of course," Marquis added. "If she's interested." Jocelyn and I stared at each other. "Working together?" she asked carefully. "Terrifying, isn't it?" I smiled. "Actually," she twisted her new wedding ring. "It sounds kind of perfect." Dad cleared his throat behind us. We hadn't noticed him approach. "Before you make any decisions," he said, "I have something to show you." He pulled out his tablet, opened a folder labeled Family. "I've been working on this all day," he explained, turning it around. On the screen was a website. At the top, the Weaver Sisters Foundation, Bridging Technology and Human Connection. "Dad?" Blair whispered. "Your mother and I—" He paused, composing himself. "We've decided to retire early, use our savings to fund something meaningful." Mom appeared, resting her hands on his shoulders. "A foundation," she explained, "supporting young women in tech and law, led by 3 sisters who learned the hard way that success means nothing without connection." "But your retirement fund," Jocelyn protested, "is better spent investing in our daughter's future." Dad cut her off. "All our daughters." I touched the screen, reading the mission statement. It was everything we'd tried to be, everything we'd fought against becoming, transformed into something new. "Well," Eugene raised his glass, "looks like my best programmer is leaving for bigger things." "Not leaving," I corrected. "Expanding. We'll need development partners. And legal oversight," Jocelyn added. "And someone to keep you both from killing each other," Blair grinned. Marquis wrapped an arm around his new wife. "So, Mrs. Bryant, ready to change the world with your sisters?" "Actually," Jocelyn looked at me, then Blair, "I think I'll keep my name. We're the Weaver Sisters after all." Mom was crying again, but this time her tears fell on a smile. "My girls," she said, "finally working together instead of competing." "About that competition," Dad said seriously, "I need to say something." We all turned to him. I was wrong. For years, I thought success meant being the best, beating everyone else. I pushed you to compete when I should have taught you to support each other. He took Mom's hand. "But watching that VR experience, seeing through each of your eyes, I've never been more proud than I am right now, seeing you choose collaboration over competition." Blair raised her glass. "To the Weaver sisters?" "To family," Jocelyn corrected. "To both," I said. As we clinked glasses, I looked around at our small group, my sisters, no longer rivals but partners, our parents, finally seeing us clearly, Marquis and Eugene, who believed in us even when we didn't believe in ourselves. The VR equipment sat packed and ready, its work done, but its effects would ripple outward, touching other families, other sisters, other people struggling to see past their differences. "So," Jocelyn nudged me, "ready to write our next chapter?" I thought about the long road ahead, the foundation, the partnerships, the challenges we'd face, but this time, we'd face them together. "You know what?" I smiled. "I think we already have." The sunset painted the sky in shades of possibility as our family gathered closer, no longer divided by achievement or expectation, but united by understanding, forgiveness, and love. Not an ending, but a beginning. Not a competition, but a collaboration. Not revenge, but redemption. And that was better than any victory I could have planned.